what's going on, guys? Alex Music here from Mr. Build It. Welcome back to another week in the workshop. Hey, today I'm going to show you how you can make a very modern, stylish bed with real wood for under 150 bucks. That's right, not breaking a bank. So buckle up, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet already, and let's get into the video. Let's go.
All right, so to get started, we decided to go with the 2x6 by 8 foot long boards of Douglas fir. For this particular project, being a twin bed, we needed 9 pieces at 8 feet long. So we brought them over to our miter station, cut them all down in half. That would be a lot easier to work with. Then we started milling. Now, typically when you mill, you want to do the edge and the face and then send it through a thickness planer, but these boards were actually really good condition, and I thought everything else could be forgiven with sanding, so I just decided to clean up the edge of it. That way it'll make a nice, smoother, cleaner panel glue up. After a few quick passes on the joiner and then creating a parallel side edge on the table saw, we were ready for the panel glue up. When doing panel glue ups, my go-to are these pipe clamps. They're really inexpensive and they're super strong. So then I laid down the bottom clamps, and on top of the bottom clamps, I laid out the exact grain pattern and seam tightness that I'm looking for. Once I was happy with the pattern, I lifted the edges up and I started applying the wood glue. What you're looking for is a nice consistent glue up. So spread it evenly and put enough on there. Now, when it comes to applying the clamp pressure, you are basically looking for just the right amount of wood glue squeeze out. Too much of it will deprive the joint of its strength. Too little of it, well, you're not gonna have enough glue strength. So give a nice firm application and apply only as much as you see squeezing out. After everything dries the appropriate amount, the next day I'm going to remove these clamps and put them through a lot of sanding, cleaning up all the joints, all the wood glue squeeze out, and getting them ready for building.
Now that we got our wood in clamps, we like to let it sit overnight. Sometimes they say you can work on it after like 15 minutes or an hour. You know what? I like to err on the safe side. Let it rest overnight, then come back for it. It'll make so much easier to work with knowing that it's strong as it could be. So with that being said, I will see you in the morning. Bye.
After all the panels were all done and sanded and ready for the final trimmings, I brought my track saw. Track saw is a really quick way to create nice, straight, consistent cuts. Plus, it's a really easy setup. So because the mattress overall width is 39 inches, I needed to create a little bit extra room just in case the mattress is squeezed and folds come out on the sides. So I rounded it up to 40 inches is my internal diameter. But keep in mind, we're gonna have panels on the side that are gonna bridge the headboard and the footboard. So long story short, 43 inches, headboard, footboard. Once everything was cut to its final dimensions, we whipped out the palm router. It has a 3/8 round over bed to give all the edges a nice round over feel. It really looks finished, it really looks put together, and it looks super slick as well. Out of the 9 2x6 boards that we bought, 2 of the boards are gonna work as the side rails. Now, the average twin mattress is 75 inches long, so with this one, we gave it that 1 extra inch, so our final dimension is 76 inches. We brought it to our Craig jig and put pocket holes on both ends of the 2 boards. Now, keep in mind, position them all on the same face, that way they're gonna sit on the inside part of the bed and not on the outside where it's gonna be a huge eyesore. When it came time to assembling, I started with the footboard first, simply because the footboard would sit flush on the very top to the top of the rails. So I flipped it on its back, laid it on the ground, and used the 2.5 inch coarse threaded pocket hole screws from Craig jig. Once both rails were installed, very carefully, I flipped it over and I was getting ready to start on the headboard. We needed to utilize the storage space underneath the bed, so the overall height had to be 15.5 inches tall. So to match the footboard, we basically took a scrap piece, clamped it as a jig, and leveled it out to be the same exact distance as it is on the footboard for the headboard. Then used the same 2.5 inch screws and secured it together. Once the side rails were installed and our bed is sitting upright, we were ready to create the part that would support the mattress slats. So to do so, we took one of the 2x6s and ripped it on our table saw into 2-inch strips. Once that was done, we put it on its edge and pre-drilled pocket holes. Then we took 2.5 inch screws and installed them flush underneath the side rails on the inner part of the bed. And for added support, we've also installed them on the inner parts of the headboard and the footboard to really ensure that we have as much strength as possible. For slats, we went with pine 4x8 sheet of plywood from a local Home Depot, roughly between $37 and $38. We ripped it on our table saw into 3-inch sections and then installed them as evenly as possible. We ended up using about 3/4 of the 4x8 sheet, so it was actually a really good buy. We then used 1.25 inch screws to drill them right into the side rails, and once they're all secured, the bed was basically ready for the finish. All right, so I'm getting ready to put the stain on. This is the first time I'm going with the Varathane stain. This particular color is an antique white. No particular reason why I'm going with this. It was just kind of on the shelf. I haven't used it. Not a sponsored video by him, so I'll give it a try. My method is always using a foam brush. Other people like cloth. This just keeps my hands clean. I don't have to tinker with it. So I'm gonna put one coat, see how it looks, and then go from there. Oh, and I sanded it all the way up to 220, so that's what I did. Though I don't pride myself in my finishing techniques, I do have a consistent approach every single time. I take a foam brush and I apply the stain one panel at a time, and I go along with the grain. Then I let it sit for about 2 minutes. I take a clean, lint-free rag and I wipe off any excess. If I have not reached the particular color that I'm looking for, I then do another layer, sometimes 3 at most, and then I just let it dry. My general rule of thumb is even if I don't achieve the exact shade that I want, once I apply the finishing clear coat on it, it tends to contrast and get a darker shade that I'm looking for. And of course, the finishing coat, I had the same approach. Use an HVLP sprayer. My particular one I'm using is the new one from HomeRite. It's their Finish Max. Really like it a lot. And then I use Minwax. It's a polyurethane. It is a water-based and it applies really easy. All I do is spray about 1 or 2 coats. I let it dry, and then I use a 220 sandpaper to kind of cut the grain, if you will, to get all the fuzzies off. And then I do another 2 coats, and then I just leave it alone and let it dry overnight.
Well, that is it for me this week. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome. Make sure to hit that subscribe button right over there. We put a video out every single week, and these are 2 more videos that you might enjoy if you missed already. Tune in out this week. We'll see you guys next week. See ya.